Everybody loves that whole 6 degrees of separation thingamajig. It basically connects two random famous people and leaves you speechless that there could be any pathway between them, and I was gonna do that today, and I realized it was just too hard. I can still fascinate and wow you though, for I am Simon from What Culture. Please do subscribe, and here is 10 obscure links between WWE stars you didn't know. Number 10, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns were both cut from the Minnesota Vikings. Now there you go. If you have recently been let go from the Vikings, stop everything and go and sign with WWE. They'll take you when you explain this, and within a few years, you'll be the world champion. The flub are you waiting for? Now there is a slight difference here as well, because we all remember the story. Brock Lesnar decided the world of wrestling wasn't for him, so went to try and get in the NFL. This would be ludicrous to begin with, but despite not playing American football for years, Brock almost made the team. That man is not human. Just to make it more ridiculous, a huge reason was because Lesnar got in a motorcycle accident during this, which seriously derailed him. So yeah, you gotta put some respect on that man's name. This was back in 2004, and in 2007 it happened the other way around. One Joseph Anawai turned up to try and live out his NFL dreams too. He was a good signing for Minnesota because he'd smashed it in college when outside forces came into play again. As we now know, the future Roman Reigns was diagnosed with leukemia, and yeah, that's going to stop anything physical, and he was let go. The soon-to-be head of the table did try his luck north of the border with the Edmonton Eskimos in the Canadian League, but after one season he hung up his helmet. It just wasn't working out. I doubt he's too sad about this now though, because he is atop of the sports entertainment industry, as is Brock, which goes to show. They've always been tied at the hip, which may explain why their feud lasted 78 years. Number 9, Aiden English is Eddie Guerrero's son-in-law. I mean, what? Who had this on their bingo card? Hopefully nobody. That's not how you play bingo. The real-life Matthew Raybolt has had an interesting career in WWE, because he was part of the Awesome Vaudevillains and Rusev Day, two groups that the company just wouldn't get behind properly. Was infuriating. Now, for some context, on the tragic day Eddie Guerrero passed away, Matthew had only just turned 18, and given he didn't debut till 2011, it seems unlikely he would have ever crossed paths with Latino heat. When he joined NXT, however, he met one Raquel Diaz, whose real life name was Shal Guerrero. You can see where this is going as they hit it off and got engaged in 2014, married in 2016, which means, yeah, Aiden is part of the family. You can now hear Raybolt doing very good commentary in Impact Wrestling, and he returned to the indie scene recently too. It's a nice story. More of these. Number 8, CM Punk and Raven both wrote for Marvel Comics. Because of course they did. Why not? I think the CM Punk contribution is more widely known just because he did it during his wrestling hiatus where everybody kept tabs on him like a hawk. Would he return to sports entertainment? Would he not? We didn't know then, but even before he had left, he was involved with Marvel and the 2012 Avengers vs. X-Men book. He then co-wrote the Thor annual 3 years later. This is very cool. Later in 2015, he also helped DC as he was involved with Strange Sports Stories number 3, then debuted his first solo written comic book with Master of Kung Fu number 126 in 2017. If we continue to wind the clock back though, yep, Raven was doing this too. 2002 was the year, and Spider-Man's Tangled Web number 14 was the publication. Plus, watch this. The story was all about Crusher Hogan, a character who was replaced in the Spider-Man film of the same year by Bonesaw McGraw, played by none other than the Macho Man Randy Savage. This was even called The Last Shoot, so as ever, everything always comes full circle in this business. Number 7, Paul Heyman and Shane McMahon were in the movie Rollerball. No, we're not talking about the 1975 version. That wouldn't make any sense. Shane McMahon was only 5 years old. Now, it's not all that rare for wrestlers to get cameos in films, because all a casting director has to do is turn on Raw and see a bunch of over-the-top characters, and of course, some go all the way. The Rock, John Cena, Batista. The rules have changed. So when the movie industry decided to remake Rollerball, which amazingly was set in the distant future of 2005, somebody picked up the phone. Based on a bunch of people playing a violent sport on motorcycles with a giant silver ball, producers felt like they needed to add commentators to the mix, so reached out to Paul Heyman, who in 2001 was sat next to Jim Ross doing this exact job. Millie McMahon is also a crowd member who looks very worried about the whole ordeal, and given it is such a small part, I assume WWE was involved on some level in having this made. Still, if you are a nerd like me, you will react when you see them both. We are all idiots. Number 6, Bayley and Shotzi went to the same high school. So we have all asked this question, did somebody famous go to our high schools? I was bullied like mad during these days, so I basically kept my head down. So maybe they did. I don't know. The Independence High School in San Jose, California is clearly breeding wrestlers like no one's business though, because as the title says, both Bayley and Shotzi walked these famous halls. Under their real names, Pamela Martinez and Ashley Urbanski, the two crossed over at the school in the 2000s before Bayley, the older of the two, graduated and started her career in pro wrestling. I don't think their paths ever met while in school, because by the time Shotzi started grappling, Bales was in NXT, but it is quite the story given that in 2023, we had a story where Bayley shaved Shotzi's head, which is something a mean person would do to you when you're younger. It also feels like something WWE could tap into should they want an added touch of realism. And just to go nuts with this, Eric Guerrero also went here. He was a 2004 wrestling Olympian, and during his journey, took on none other than Brock Lesnar. So there you go. Number 5, Stephanie McMahon and Brock Lesnar are both Kiss Kurt Angle. So that's weird, isn't it? Why are we even talking about this? Mostly because there's a good story behind it. Because if you have been watching WWE for a long time, you will remember back in the year 2000, we had a love triangle between Angle, Triple H, and Stephanie. The plan at one point was for Kurt to woo McMahon away from the game, when Hunter decided he didn't really like that, and the whole thing just stopped. That old chestnut. It still got to the point where Angle and Steph shared a kiss on a sofa, which must have inspired Brock Lesnar 3 years later. Because as the two engaged in an awesome feud on SmackDown with a chemistry like none other, Kurt went to shake the Beast's hand following a match. As Lesnar liked Angle, he went into full-on Brock mode, and instead grabbed Kurt and kissed him right on the lips. This was a spontaneous move. The man with 3 eyes has revealed this on many a podcast after the fact, and I like this tale. Goes to show if Brock was fond of you, he would have all of the fun, including giving you a big old peck. Or in short, everybody wanted some of Kurt. Number 4, CM Punk and Dr. Death Steve Williams have the same MMA record, which is not a good one. This we know. People do love to get on Punk's case about his win-loss record in the UFC, but I tell ya, I respect it. Takes some real courage to step out of your comfort zone, and you only regret the things you don't do. The fact he has done it means he can hold on to that for life. He did lose to Mickey Gall and Mike Johnson quite effortlessly, however, before I suppose everybody agreed this wasn't working, and we left it there. It was the right move. His final fight was actually ruled a non-contest after Johnson tested positive for marijuana, which, means he's now tied with Dr. Death. Steve Williams was such a legit tough guy, he wanted to see how he would fare in MMA, and lost his only match to 4-time Muay Thai world champion Alexei Ignashov at the K1 Beast 2004 in Nikita. I think Steve would have gone on to do far better, but sadly was diagnosed with cancer soon after this, so had to stop. But it does mean him and Punk both share the one loss. Interestingly, Alexei fought 2 other MMA matches, and both were against Shinsuke Nakamura. So it's happening again. Number 3, Edge was the best man at the Kat and Kazani's wedding. So we need to catch you all up to speed on this one. Unless you're weird and know already, nerds for life. But most people are aware that Stacey the Cat Carter and Jerry Lawler were married. That's why the King left WWE in 2001, because they fired his wife, and he wasn't happy about it. Because of course not. Eventually they did get divorced, and in 2010 Carter decided to return to the ring, and while doing so met one Nicholas Kovic, who most fans remember as Kazani from WWE. Never seen that gimmick too, man. That is quite the trip. Nick ran in the same circles as Edge and Christian when they were all on the indies, so yeah, when he popped the question and got a yes, Adam Copeland was inviting to the wedding, and he was the best man. Jimmy Mouth of the South Heart was also on hand to give the cat away, and if you're into kayfabe, do not look at the guest list, you'll be gutted. Sadly, they two broke up a few years later, but look, I just hope they're happy now. Number 2, Chris Jericho and Lita have played in Norwich. That's right, Norwich, England, East Anglia. A lot of my family is from there. You didn't need to know that. More relevant is the fact that within wrestling, Saraya and the Knights have made this their stronghold, which could be why Chris Jericho headed this way in 2010. I mean, it's not. I just needed a tie-in. After he did get written off WWE TV following a Randy Orton punk kick, though, Y2J did go on a tour with his band Fozzy, and one venue was indeed the Waterfront in Norwich. Now here's another Simon Miller fact. My band, MG and the Juggernaut, have also played there once upon a time. So there you go. The thing is, 4 years before it, Lita did it first. I didn't even know it was a thing. But she fronted the band the Lucha Gores after hanging up her boots. They must have done okay. They were able to head over to Norwich too, where they played the Marquee venue. And sure, that's smaller than the Waterfront, but are you kidding me? I'd play a broom closet in the USA if they'd have me. That is one cool tick box. Number 1, Steve Austin and Deborah got married at that wedding chapel in Vegas. So we all remember this, the infamous marriage between Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. Before we knew it was a ruse and Steph was in on it, it is a very troubling scene, because it does come across as if the game had drugged McMahon, married her without her knowledge, and, well, had sex with her. That's what Hunter said anyway, and he did this while interrupting Stephanie and Teth's own wedding. The Attitude Era was bonkers. Thankfully, a few months later, we learned they were in cahoots as the McMahon-Helmsley reign began. I suppose Steve Austin and Deborah must have thought it looked like a nice place to wed, because in real life, this is where they headed to legalize their bond. Known as the Little White Wedding Chapel on Las Vegas Boulevard, they tied the knot on the 13th of September 2000, and thankfully records show they went inside to do this, whereas Triple H just used the drive-thru. I don't know. Still, if you ever wanted to combine reality and kayfabe, there you go. Wrestlers love this place, although I do believe it's been demolished today. Unbelievable. Know of any other obscure links between WWE stars that nobody knows? Make sure you let us know in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, subscribe, and click that video that's on the screen right now. You can also head over to whatculture.com to read more articles like this with your eyes and your brain. You can follow us on social media, and you can just go out today and be a positive Pete when it comes to the world of grappling. You are going to spend so much of your time watching it, you may as well have a smile on your face.